What your shadow is trying to tell you, there is a part of you that watches from the depths, a silent force that lingers beneath the surface of your awareness, whispering truths you refuse to hear. It is the unacknowledged, the suppressed, the forgotten self. You may sense it in moments of unexplained anger, in a sudden fear that grips you without reason, or in the patterns that seem to repeat endlessly in your life. It is your shadow, an entity woven from the hidden threads of your psyche, carrying the aspects of yourself you've buried, denied, or cast away. But here's the paradox. The shadow is not your enemy. It is your greatest teacher. If ignored, it will sabotage you from the dark, pulling the strings of your subconscious. But if embraced, it becomes the key to wholeness, wisdom, and untapped power. Carl Jung, the great psychologist and mystic, once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." What he meant was that everything you reject about yourself, the fears, desires, and impulses you suppress, does not disappear. It operates from the shadows, influencing your thoughts, emotions, and decisions without your awareness. In this video, we will journey deep into the world of the shadow. We will explore its origins in ancient wisdom, uncover its hidden messages, and reveal how you can work with it to unlock immense personal transformation. By the end of this exploration, you will no longer fear your darkness. Instead, you will understand that within it lies the missing piece of your soul. But first, let us step back in time, where the ancients understood the shadow far better than most do today. The concept of the shadow is not a modern invention, nor is it exclusive to the realms of psychology. Throughout history, many cultures and spiritual traditions have recognized the existence of this hidden force within us. The parts of ourselves that lie in the darkness, far from our conscious awareness. The shadow, often seen as a reflection of our unconscious mind, has played a significant role in esoteric teachings, ancient philosophies, and spiritual practices. In ancient Egypt, the concept of the shadow was deeply intertwined with the soul. The Egyptians believed that every person had a ka, an eternal spirit, and a shadow, shut, which was considered a separate but essential aspect of the individual. This shadow was thought to contain the darker, hidden parts of the self, and it was closely associated with one's fate. The shadow in Egyptian mythology was not something to be feared, but understood. By honoring it, one could align more closely with divine truths. The mystical traditions of the East also offer insights into the nature of the shadow. In Hinduism, the concept of avidya, ignorance or illusion, is central to spiritual teachings. It is the ignorance of the true self, hidden beneath layers of ego and desires, that creates our shadow. The practice of self-inquiry, atma vichara, encourages us to peel away these layers, revealing the true essence of who we are beneath the illusions we've created. Much like the shadow, the truth of who we are lies beyond what we can immediately perceive. In Taoism, the philosophy of yin and yang teaches that opposites must coexist. Light cannot exist without dark, and thus the shadow is a necessary counterpart to our conscious self. The shadow in Taoist thought represents the aspects of us that are repressed or ignored, but they are not inherently evil. They are simply parts of us that need balance and integration for spiritual wholeness. Even in Western philosophy, thinkers like Plato delved into the idea of the shadow through the allegory of the cave. In this allegory, prisoners are bound in a cave, only able to see shadows on the wall. These shadows represent their limited perceptions of reality, with the truth lying beyond their awareness. It was only by stepping out of the cave, into the light, that they could truly see the world as it was, untainted by illusion. This allegory serves as a metaphor for the shadow, the parts of ourselves we cannot see while imprisoned by our own ignorance. The most influential modern voice on the shadow, however, is Carl Jung. His groundbreaking work in analytical psychology brought the shadow into the light of mainstream awareness. Jung believed that the shadow contains both the rejected aspects of ourselves, the parts we deem undesirable, and the untapped potential within us. He taught that it is only by confronting and integrating the shadow that we can achieve individuation, the process of becoming our truest and most complete selves. The shadow, he said, is not something to be feared, but embraced as a necessary aspect of personal growth and self-realization. So what does the shadow reveal to us across these diverse traditions and philosophies? It is the invitation to look deeper into ourselves, to confront the darker corners of our psyche, and to reclaim the power and wisdom that lies dormant within us. It asks us to face our fears, our guilt, and our desires that we may have tried to bury, and in doing so, we begin to uncover the most authentic and empowered version of who we truly are. But how do we begin this inner journey? What exactly is the shadow trying to tell us? Step 2. Explore your emotions and projections. As we discussed earlier, emotions such as anger, jealousy, fear, and guilt are often tied to the shadow. The next step in shadow work is to explore these emotions whenever they arise. When you feel a strong emotional reaction to a person, event, or situation, pause and reflect on what's really happening beneath the surface. For example, if you find yourself feeling jealous of a colleague's success, take a moment to ask why. What part of you feels threatened or overlooked? What desires or aspirations are being triggered? The key here is to recognize that the jealousy is not just about the other person, but rather about an unexpressed need or desire within yourself. By exploring this emotion, you can bring it into conscious awareness and begin to address the unmet needs it represents. Another way the shadow communicates is through projections, when we see our own repressed qualities in others. If you notice yourself strongly disliking someone, ask yourself what part of them reminds you of something you dislike within yourself. The person you judge may mirror aspects of your shadow, giving you a chance to integrate these qualities into your own consciousness. Step 3. Engage with your dreams. As we touched on earlier, dreams are a powerful tool for shadow work. The unconscious mind speaks to us through symbols, and the figures in our dreams often represent aspects of ourselves that we have yet to fully integrate. Begin keeping a dream journal and recording your dreams each morning. Look for recurring symbols or figures that may hold clues about the shadow. Ask yourself questions such as, what emotions did I feel during the dream? Or, what part of me is this dream trying to highlight? You may notice that your dreams begin to reflect the themes of your waking life, showing you situations or emotions you've been avoiding. Working with dreams in this way can illuminate hidden fears, desires, and unresolved conflicts, allowing you to bring them into the light of consciousness. Step 4. Use meditation and visualization. Meditation and visualization are two of the most effective tools for shadow work. Through regular meditation, you can cultivate the inner stillness needed to listen to your shadow and allow it to reveal its secrets. Begin by sitting in a quiet space and focusing on your breath. As thoughts and feelings arise, notice them without judgment, simply observing what comes up. Ask your shadow to show itself. You may not immediately receive clear answers, but with time, you will begin to sense its presence. Another powerful visualization technique involves imagining yourself standing in front of your shadow. In your mind's eye, see your shadow as a separate entity. What does it look like? What emotions does it evoke? Visualize yourself embracing your shadow, acknowledging it, and asking it to share its wisdom. This visualization can be transformative, allowing you to begin a conscious dialogue with the parts of yourself you've hidden from view. Integrate the shadow through compassion. One of the most important aspects of shadow work is integrating the repressed parts of yourself with compassion. The shadow is not evil. It simply holds the parts of you that were too painful, shameful, or unaccepted for you to acknowledge at the time. It's essential to approach the shadow with love and empathy, understanding that these traits are not mistakes, but essential parts of your human experience. Whenever you encounter a part of your shadow, whether through an emotion, a dream, or a memory, approach it as a parent would approach a wounded child. Hold space for these feelings and traits without judgment. Allow yourself to feel the pain, the shame, or the fear, and then let it go. The more you approach your shadow with love, the more you allow it to transform into a source of strength and wisdom. Embody the lessons of the final step in shadow work is to embody the lessons and gifts the shadow offers. When you integrate the hidden parts of yourself, you not only heal, but also unlock new potential. You become more whole, more authentic, and more empowered. The shadow carries with it immense creative power, untapped wisdom, and deep spiritual growth. As you embrace your shadow, you may find yourself stepping into new roles, new opportunities, and a deeper sense of purpose. One of the greatest gifts of shadow work is that it connects you with the fullness of your being. You no longer live in fear of your darker emotions or traits. Instead, you embrace them as integral parts of your journey. You discover the profound truth that light and dark are not separate. They are two sides of the same coin, both essential to the wholeness of your soul. Conclusion. As we reach the conclusion of this journey into the shadow, it's essential to remember that the process of integration is not a one-time event, but a continuous unfolding. The shadow, like the night sky, is ever present, and its messages will continue to emerge as you walk along your path. It is not something to be feared or avoided, but embraced as a mirror reflecting the depths of your own soul. In learning to communicate with your shadow, you uncover hidden truths about yourself. Truths that have the power to transform your life in ways you never thought possible. The shadow is not the enemy, it is the unconscious friend, the guardian of your deeper wisdom, awaiting your conscious recognition. When you understand that the shadow is not an adversary, but a guide to wholeness, you can begin to dissolve the walls that keep you separate from your true self. By integrating your shadow, you step into a new realm of authenticity and spiritual power. You become whole. You no longer live in the duality of light and dark, but in the balance of both, where you can fully embrace your humanity and divinity. In this process, you unlock the hidden potential within you, your true power to create, heal, and transform. The journey with your shadow is not easy, but it is a path that leads to enlightenment. Every step you take in shadow work brings you closer to the profound truth that everything you need is already within you, waiting to be discovered. I invite you to reflect deeply on the message your shadow is trying to reveal to you. What has it been trying to tell you all along? What parts of yourself have you yet to fully embrace? As you embark on this journey of shadow integration, remember that the only way to truly know yourself is to face everything that has been hidden in the dark. The path to wholeness begins with one simple truth. You are more than you think, and the shadow is your guide to discovering the greatness within. As you take this knowledge into your life, know that you are not alone. The shadow is always with you, guiding you, teaching you, helping you to unfold into the fullest version of yourself. Trust the process, embrace the lessons, and step boldly into the light. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of the shadow. May your journey be one of deep transformation, and may you always walk in the light of your own true self. To understand what your shadow is trying to tell you, we must first explore the nature of the shadow itself. The shadow is often described as the unconscious aspect of the personality, but it is not simply a repository of negative traits. Rather, it encompasses all the parts of you that have been repressed or denied throughout your life. Traits, emotions, desires, and fears that do not fit within the social mask you present to the world. Consider the metaphor of the unseen side of the moon, The moon itself is whole, yet only one side is visible to the observer. The hidden side, however, is not non-existent. It exists, but it remains unseen, obscured by the natural order of the universe. In much the same way, the shadow is a part of the self that remains hidden from conscious awareness, yet it exists and influences your thoughts, feelings, and actions. The shadow is born out of both personal and collective experiences. On a personal level, your shadow is shaped by the parts of you that society, family, or even your own conscience taught you to repress or reject. As children, we are told what is good and bad, what is acceptable and unacceptable. These messages embed themselves into our psyche, and the behaviors, emotions, and traits that do not fit these norms are often suppressed. For instance, a child may be raised in an environment where anger is considered inappropriate. As a result, the child learns to hide feelings of rage instead of learning to express them in healthy ways. Over time, this suppressed anger becomes part of the shadow, lurking in the unconscious, waiting to resurface in unexpected ways. It might manifest as irritability, passive-aggressive behavior, or even physical tension in the body. On a deeper level, the shadow also contains elements of the collective unconscious, a concept introduced by Carl Jung. This refers to the shared pool of experiences, symbols, and archetypes that all humans carry within them. The shadow, in this sense, can hold the fears and desires that transcend individual experiences and tap into the universal human condition. It is often from this layer of the shadow that we encounter archetypes like the evil or the hero, which can appear in our dreams or fantasies as distorted reflections of our hidden qualities. One of the most powerful aspects of the shadow is its ability to reveal the parts of us that we are afraid to confront. Fear, shame, guilt, and insecurity are often deeply entwined with the shadow. These emotions, while natural, become entangled with the persona we show to the world, forcing us to push them into the dark. The shadow, however, is not a place of evil. It is simply where the repressed aspects of the psyche reside. When we begin to confront the shadow, we are not only unearthing the parts of ourselves we have rejected, but also the untapped potential that lies beneath the surface. Imagine, for a moment, a great treasure buried in the earth. Over time, the ground has shifted, and the treasure is now covered in layers of dirt and stone. The shadow is much like this treasure, valuable, full of wisdom, and capable of transforming your life, but it remains hidden until you are willing to dig deep. The process of uncovering your shadow requires courage and honesty, for it asks you to face the aspects of yourself you have avoided. The shadow also carries a deep sense of paradox. Often, what we reject in others is merely a reflection of what we reject in ourselves. When you encounter someone you strongly dislike, it is often a mirror of a quality you have disowned within yourself. This is why projection is such a key feature of the shadow. If you despise someone for being arrogant, it may reflect an aspect of your own arrogance that you refuse to acknowledge. By recognizing this projection, you begin to reclaim the disowned parts of your being and, in turn, discover the hidden potential within them. This is the essence of what the shadow is trying to tell you. It asks you to look deeper, to face your fears, to embrace the parts of yourself you've long since abandoned, and to reclaim the power you've left behind in the darkness. But how do you begin this process? How can you start to listen to the shadow's whispers and uncover its wisdom? Now that we have understood the nature of the shadow, let's delve deeper into how it communicates with us and what it reveals when we begin to pay attention. The shadow does not speak to us in words, but through symbols, emotions, and experiences that arise unexpectedly, often when we least expect them. These signs are not random. They are the shadow's way of guiding us back to ourselves, of showing us the fragments of our soul that we have left behind in our quest for acceptance, control, and conformity. One of the most profound ways the shadow communicates is through our emotions. Have you ever had an outburst of anger over something that seemed trivial, only to later realize there was something much deeper at play? Perhaps it was a buried resentment from years ago, a feeling of powerlessness that you have refused to acknowledge. The shadow speaks through these emotional eruptions, guiding us to the unresolved aspects of ourselves that we need to confront. These emotions are not a sign of weakness, but an invitation to dive deeper into our inner world. Take the example of jealousy. At first glance, jealousy may appear to be a negative and destructive emotion, but when examined closely, it often reveals an underlying desire, perhaps the desire for recognition, success, or love. The shadow uses jealousy to show us the parts of ourselves that feel unfulfilled or insecure. By exploring these emotions, we begin to understand what our soul truly craves and what we need to heal in order to move forward. Instead of rejecting these feelings, the shadow asks us to sit with them, reflect on them, and learn from them. Similarly, the experiences we encounter in our lives are not mere coincidences. They are often orchestrated by the shadow in order to push us toward growth. Repeated patterns in our relationships, careers, or personal lives are the shadow's way of inviting us to see where we are still holding on to limiting beliefs or unresolved conflicts. For instance, if you find yourself repeatedly attracting toxic relationships, it may be a reflection